From India's point of view, Iran seriously entering and expanding the Israel-Hezbollah conflict will immediately impact India's energy security. However, the silver lining is that India has been working on several options in the meantime. Hello and welcome to Think for India. I'm your host Paresh Gupta. Let's begin. The country is dependent on imports for its energy. It is one of the largest importers of oil and liquefied natural gas in the world. A blowing up conflict will lead to fluctuations of prices, creating supply chain issues. Since October 2, oil prices have surged by over 3% because of West Asia tensions. Brent hit close to $76 a barrel from around $71. The impact on India of rising prices will be such that according to an India Today report, for every $10 increase in oil prices, India's inflation rate surges by nearly 0.3%. The current account deficit also takes a worrying tone and expands by 12.5 billion US dollars or roughly 43 basis points of GDP, as per estimates cited by multiple reports. Till July, around 42% of India's import needs were met by Russia. That slipped to 36% in August. As a result, the share of imports from Middle East spiked to 44.6% from 40.3%. Iraq, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait are the main Middle Eastern suppliers of oil to India. India also gets half of its LNG from Qatar. The impact of a war will affect the supply chains, the biggest problem. A war in the region will affect major shipping routes in the Red Sea and through the Strait of Hormuz. India will feel the pinch greatly by the blocking of the Strait of Hormuz, through which it gets its LNG from Qatar and oil from Iraq and Saudi Arabia. Hormuz, situated between Oman and Iran, links the Persian Gulf with the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Sea. It is a key global choke point because the narrow strait handles massive volumes of oil passing through it. The oil producing nations in the Gulf send their product to the world's refineries through Hormuz. A significant portion of India's imports pass through this strait. Nearly two-thirds of oil and close to half LNG India imports. The Economic Times reported on the impact of the blockade. According to a Morgan Stanley report, a $10 per barrel increase could impact consumer prices by 0.2 to 1.4% points across Asian economies. India is in the middle with the consumer price index rising up to 0.5% points for each $10 barrel increase in oil prices. ICRA, an affiliate of Moody's, projected in the first week of October that India's net oil import bill would widen to 101 to 104 billion US dollars in current fiscal from 96.1 billion US dollars in 2023-24, and any escalation in the Iran-Israel war could impact an upward pressure on the volume of imports. This means that a $10 per barrel hike in crude price this financial year can jack up net oil imports by 12 to 13 US billion dollars during the year. The widening conflict could also jeopardize the progress of India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor (IMEC), announced last year during the G20 meeting in New Delhi. The idea is an Eastern Economic Corridor connecting India to the Gulf region and a Northern Corridor connecting the Gulf region to Europe. Significantly, India is an old hand at handling fluctuations in crude prices owing to geopolitical disturbances in the last several decades. Most of its importers are in the world's most vulnerable regions. Yet, India has managed to overcome all crises to import crude it needs, notwithstanding hiked prices. It is possible that a conflict situation may make India turn to Russia to buy more oil. Despite the American sanctions on Russia, India may not face any trouble getting more oil. But the oil cannot travel to India if the Red Sea route is closed. It will have to take the longer, more expensive way via the Cape of Good Hope. Among the possible future options India would already be considering, according to oilprices.com, is that India may accelerate the development of its domestic oil and gas resources. It says in its latest report, and I quote, 4 largely unexplored sedimentary basins in India could hold up to 22 billion barrels of oil, S&P Global Community Insights has reported. In effect, lesser known category 2 and 3 basins, namely Mahanadi, Andaman Sea, Bengal, and Kerala Konkan coast, contain more oil than the Persian Basin, which has already produced 14 billion of its 34 billion barrels of recoverable oil reserves. India also has the opportunity to promote deep sea oil exploration. Oil India and ONGC have acreages in the Andaman waters and have finalized several projects. The country needs foreign expertise in ultra deep water exploration to go ahead. Petroleum Minister Hardeep Singh Puri is on record saying that though only 10% of India's 3.36 million kilometers wide sedimentary basin is under exploration, the figure will jump to 16% later this year, following the awarding of blocks under the open acreage licensing policy rounds. Anticipating future troubles, India embarked on a multiple strategy in 2016 to secure its long-term oil security needs, comprising diversifying supply sources, investing in oil fields, and using financial interests. The Indian Council on Global Relations came up with a paper saying India should be looking at Canada, apart from Russia, as an important importer because of future instabilities that are bound to affect the Middle East. It must also become more proactive in acquiring oil fields in other countries, as ownership of oil fields will allow India to accrue some of the value of rising oil prices. It will also offer a measure of protection against rising oil prices. ONGC has been doing the acquiring in the last decade. Last but not least, the Council paper suggests India turning to the financial markets to protect itself against price spikes.